I think I spoke to what salespeople always knew, but they weren't being taught. I think deep down as a human being, you want to have connection. You don't want to get rejected all the time. You don't want to have tons of objections. I really feel our message around, old model of selling, new model of selling, how to work with human behavior rather than work against it, has really generated a little bit of buzz. But for the most part, most people are still doing rehashed material that was taught in the 1940s, 1960s, 1980s, like boiler room style, or repackaged as consultative selling, which sounds pretty scripted. And we kind of came in with probably a much newer angle.
4,000, 4,500 sales calls a month. What would that do for your business? Because I know that would.
We're just starting. 5 years from now, it'll be much higher than that. But a lot of that comes from like the way we market is, we probably spend a lot less on ads. Like we might only spend $500,000 a month on ads. For a company of our size, you think we'd probably spend triple that, or maybe at least double that. But our CRO, Marco Cortese that you met, along with it, we got our vice president of marketing, Blake Wyatt. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've heard of him.
He's a stud. So those guys work together. And so all these reels that we do 180 reels a month.
180
on
reels a month.
Instagram, I think we do like a little bit less on LinkedIn, like 3 a day on LinkedIn. We have our YouTube shorts. We have Facebook reels, TikTok reels, all that stuff. So anybody that watches those reels more than 30 seconds just gets retargeted by our ads all of the time. So anytime they're on anywhere social media, they are seeing some of our stuff. We've got like 10,000 ads out there. You've probably seen it. And they're constantly seeing our stuff all of the time. So these are people who are, obviously engaging in our content. And so by the time they get to one of our account managers, at least half of them are like, hey, I'm ready to purchase. I don't know what I want to purchase. I know I need to learn how to sell more. Because a lot of our free content, they'll go out and use it and make more sales. And like, oh my gosh, I'm making more sales from a couple reels. If I had the entire training programs that they have, like, where could I be, as a salesperson or as a business owner? Where could I scale my company if my salespeople had all this stuff? So we do, out of those 180 reels, 50 of them are intentional. So I just sat down like this and they'll ask me a question, and they usually go to YouTube or Google and they find out like the top 50 things salespeople or business owners are typing in about sales. Like, how do I overcome this objection? Or, I'm getting a lot of resistance when I cold call, what should I do? Or just random stuff. And then we do the reels around that stuff. That's why a lot of them go, more viral.
They go very viral.
Yeah.
Ever since I've known Jeremy, he's always been a very humble guy. So I'm going to bring that out. And if it's not being humble, I'm just going to call him out on it, which is, in this one, I have obviously marketers and entrepreneurs that follow me.
Yeah.
How do you create? Because I've seen your videos and shorts, hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views.
Yeah.
What's the key? What's the secrets? We're here to learn all the secrets.
Yeah.
What's the secret to creating?
So when I create content, my purpose of the content is to give them something tangible, tactical in that 60 seconds that they can walk away with and actually like, wow, I can go do that on my next sales call and it actually works. So then they're obviously, okay, I want more, right?
Tangible and tactical.
Tangible and tactical. Like, I love motivation and that kind of stuff, but I found it really annoying as a salesperson myself when most of the sales trainers would be like, you got to set goals, you got to work harder, you got to be more motivated. I'm like, I get all that. I just want to know what to say. I want to know what to ask. I want to know how to use my tone. I want to know how to use my body language to influence. And so that's what we teach in the reels. Now, we don't teach like advanced stuff in the reels. That's for our clients, like in our paid training programs, our virtual training programs and stuff that we have in group coaching. But they walk away where they're like, wow, I can see that and I could use that. We have one IG reel on like how to get people to respond that have ghosted you. It has almost 4 million views. And you'll see thousands of comments where people are like, I did this yesterday, I didn't think it would work. And the guy responded in 5 minutes and I've been emailing and calling him for 6 months. And I'm like, you're welcome.
You're welcome. You know why? Let me tell you this why. I watched that reel yesterday. You're on the whiteboard and he basically says, because I always say that. It's so crazy, dude. I always say, hey, I'm following up with you. And I'm checking in on you. And you're like, you bash it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's talking to me. Dude, as soon as I watched that video, what did you say? You said, what would you like for me to, what was the?
Yeah, so I said, try to reach you a few times, ... Then you scroll down 2 lines. how do you want to proceed from here?
That's why I texted back to the guy. How do you want to proceed moving forward? And I thought, wow, this is how I need to follow up with people, not saying, hey, I'm following up with you, I'm checking in on you.
Yeah.
So that's tactical and tangible.
Yeah, tactical and
valuable.
tangible, they can actually do something with. So, you know, they just get results. And so what I always do as well is like I understand how salespeople think, right? Because I was in the trenches with them for 18 years, 4 different industries, 2 B2C, business to consumer, and 2 B2B. So I understand both angles. I know what's going on. I know what their prospects are thinking. I understand how the brain works. That's my background is behavioral science from college. And so even when I do ads, you're gonna notice I probably sound different than most people out there. Most people, and I love everybody, but most people are like really excited on there. It's like, hey, if you're looking, you know, they're like pitch mode. Well, pitch mode, when you sound like everybody else, your people are gonna scroll through it because they've heard all of it before. You don't stand out. So what I do is you're gonna notice I'm more like in training mode. Like I'm more collective. I'm more like talking like this. You know, hey, if you're a salesperson so I'm like lower down, not boring, but I'm more down in the middle, like that kind of, I call it collective confidence. And sometimes when I'm shooting ads, you're also gonna notice I'll do dumb things that you guys think, why is he doing that? But it's a pattern interrupt. I'll be like, I know you're like me and you're wondering about this. Like who am I? Who's Jeremy Miner? I'm just a guy wearing this, this blue Hugo Boss shirt. See, that's a pattern. If this blue Hugo Boss shirt, I'm looking down there, they're looking like, oh yeah, that's a Hugo Boss shirt. That's an example, a little pattern interrupt to keep them engaged in the conversation. And you'll notice a lot of the ads we do, I'll do a hook and then I'll go to like a vibe board and I'll actually do like a 1 or 2 minute training. And then I say, if you want more of this type of training, you can get this black book. So I see like valuable here, like you can use this for free. And if you want more of this, here's this black book, you can get it for $27. And we have thousands of people in that SLO offer every week.
Wow.
So those are just different examples. And I've had to learn how to do that. When I first started shooting ads 2.5 years ago, I think I sucked actually. But it seems like every quarter, I just learn how to do it better and our ads convert better and better.
Yeah, I love it. I love the whole branding of 7th Level, the entire team. Obviously, I spent 90 minutes. I had like a 50-minute, I think it was supposed to be a 50-minute meeting with Matt.
Yeah.
Either he liked me very much, which I don't think he likes. Anyway, we sat there for 90 minutes and I was like, all I did was just ask questions and I just sat there and I was like, this is so good.
Yeah.
I don't think I even checked my phone.
He knows his stuff.
He knows his stuff. How important is it to have supportive people around you? When people start off, doing sales, doing marketing, whatever, it's like, how important is it? And how do you have supportive people around you?
Yeah, a lot of times when you start a business, you have to, because a lot of us don't have tens of millions of dollars to I'm going to go out and hire everybody, I'm going to get the CEO from Apple to come work for me. So sometimes the first year you have to kind of bootstrap it, right? But after the first year, I'm like, okay, I need to have, it was me and my assistant, which is still with me, Beth Jolly, head of customer service now. Got promoted, I love Beth. So after that first year, I'm like, man, I'm not very good at running a business. The first year, we made $1.3 million in sales. I did like 3 webinars. I spent 1.8. So that means I lost 500,000 my first year. I'm like, okay, how many years can I keep going if I keep losing 500,000-600,000 a year before I'm gonna have to go back into my job, And so after that, I'm like, I need to get somebody that's really talented at running a business because that's not my strength. So I'd always encourage, all of you, if you're gonna start a business, that you find a business partner or partners. I wouldn't have more than 3. I think after 3, 2 to 3 is always the magic number in my mind. So we have me, we have Matt Ryder, our CEO, and Marco Cortese, our Chief Revenue Officer. And they each are very strong in certain areas, and they're weak in others. And I'm strong in certain areas, maybe that they're weak, and vice versa. So it's like we're all 3 have our strengths and weaknesses, and we balance each other out in those areas. And that's why it's grown so fast. So I really understand that you can have the greatest product, the greatest service, greatest whatever you sell, but if you don't have the right team around you, it just takes so long to get anywhere. And once you get the right team, it's just like everything changes. And it's happened to us. Like we wouldn't be, everybody comes up to be like, oh, you're crushing it, you're doing it. I'm like, no, my team is crushing it. I'm just the guy on the ads and that does the training. Without the team, there's no crushing it. No team, no crushing it.
I love it. Yesterday I read this, I think it's an article or something. A great sales trainer is attractive, knowledgeable, and has personality. And you can.
Well, I don't know if I have the personality. I do have the knowledge. The attractiveness is debatable.
Well, he never ages. And I'm not going to mention his age, but I've known him for like 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I was starting with you, I was a young kid. I was 22 years old.
Yeah.
You were my first high-ticket client.
Yeah.
You know, you paid me like $175,000.
A long time ago, yeah.
That changed my life because the following year I became a millionaire.
Yeah.
And I remember going to your house. You lived in this mansion.
Yeah.
Was it Britney Spears used to live there, or basketball players?
There was a bunch of some baseball player that played for the Diamondbacks. He used to play for the California Angels. But Ricky Henderson was my next door neighbor, the Hall of Famer for the Oakland A's. That's all the stolen bases. Good old Ricky. I would hang out with him every morning around 6 in the morning. He was always out there in the front yard taking care of his flowers.
So I want to talk about that, right? Because I remember like coming to your house.
Yeah.
It was the biggest. Obviously, I come from London. You don't have mansions in London.
12,000 square foot.
Yeah. So I live in a very nice penthouse.
Yeah.
It's about 2,000 or 2,500 square feet.
That's big for London.
So it's nice in London.
Yeah.
But when I went there, I remember young kid.
Yeah.
Kind of broke, you know, you were my first high-ticket client.
Yeah.
I went out to see you, and you had all these books.
Yeah.
And I had heard this thing. I never internalized it.
Yeah.
Like right now, I've never owned a TV. It's been like, since I started, 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
The reason why I share that is, I remember seeing you disciplined. After 3, 4 p.m., you're like, okay, work's over. And I'm like, what do you mean work's over, man? You're like, no, it's my kids' time. It's gym time. And you'd be up every morning early. I learned a lot of these habits from you, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you this. Even books as well. I remember thinking, he's so rich. Why does he read books? And I don't know if
That's what got me rich.
Yeah, and and I was like, okay, instead of watching TV and being entertained, I need to educate myself and read books. Obviously, you have a book.
Yeah.
You are proper into education, books, courses, training.
Yeah.
You know, you learn from. How is that? Do you still learn?
You know, like Myron said up on stage, your biggest expense of life is your lack of knowledge. So if you're a salesperson or an entrepreneur or a business owner, the only thing that separates you right here from where you want to be is your what? Your lack of knowledge. Quite literally, that is the only thing that separates you. So if you want to be an amazing marketer, the only thing that would separate you from not being is your lack of knowledge of how to market. So you acquire those skills. As a salesperson, nobody's born with advanced questioning skills. You're not born out of your mother's womb with advanced tonality skills. You're not born with advanced objection prevention and handling skills. Those are all acquired skills. You learn those skills. And since I was 22, you know who I got it from? Was Brian Tracy.
Brian
It
Tracy.
was my first event I went to.
Have you met Brian?
Yeah, I'm actually I got Brian on speed dial here.
Oh, nice.
When I
met
started
him
seventh
actually.
level
Yeah.
4.5 years ago, our first product I did was called the Ultimate Closers Masterclass. I did it with Brian Tracy.
Okay.
He's a good dude. But so I went to my first sales seminar. It's like 2001, Salt Lake City, Utah. And Brian was up there, and I remember one thing he said that I took to the gospel. He's like, use your vehicle as a university on wheels. And from that day forward, I remember going out, I didn't listen to music really ever again.
Yeah.
Like literally, back in the day, you'd plug in CDs, now you have audiobooks. But ever since then, I've either read or listened to 5 books a month on sales, persuasion, influence, times 12 months a year. So that's 60 books a year, times 23 years. That's
Wow.
about 1,450 some books on sales, persuasion, influence. Now, I didn't read all 5 every month. I typically will read 2, and then I listen to 3 while I'm driving around in the car. And people are always like, I don't have time to learn training. I'm like, BS, you know what? You know what I do? Because, I'm a crazy, I do 2 things that are pretty crazy. I always floss my teeth all the time when I eat. I'm crazy like that. And then I always iron all my clothes. So every morning I'm sitting there ironing my pants, ironing my shirt. I've got my phone on, my things on. Right now I'm going through an advanced body language course. And I might only have 5 minutes while I'm ironing. So I'll watch it for 5 minutes. Then I'll get in my car, plug it in, driving to the chiropractor for 10 minutes. I'm listening to that, so I got 15 minutes in. Then I'm driving back to the office another 15 minutes. Now I'm at 30 minutes for the day. Then before I go to bed, maybe I'm sitting there eating at night. I turn it on for like another 15, 20 minutes. I just learned about 50 minutes worth of advanced body language just that day by driving around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you have the time, you're doing other stuff to distract you with the time you have. Like if you're driving down the road and you're listening to Taylor Swift, Taylor, we love you. Or if you're listening to your favorite motivational, AC/DC pump you up songs or whatever you listen to, how much money is that making you every month? 0. Bagels. So when I'm driving around, I want to listen. Like if I'm a marketer like you, I'm probably listening to like how to be a better marketer, like how to do my ads better, how to do this better, because that's the best place to learn is literally while you're just driving around your freaking car.
Yeah. No,
Crazy.
100%. I mean, I remember developing so many habits after meeting you.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time I actually lived with someone who was very wealthy. Actually, you were the first guy, right? So I remember, like, it was a huge experience. I never went to a house that had a swimming pool, right? Like,
It was huge.
In London, you don't have that stuff. So
Yeah.
I remember, like, being a kid and then seeing, wow, this is how millionaires live. Well, it was you.
Yeah.
And I think I lived with you for, I don't know how many weeks it was.
3 or 4 weeks, I think, something like that. Almost 4 weeks, yeah.
But I remember it had a huge effect, and that immersed, like that immersion, you know, Tony Robbins talks about, if you want to learn and master something, immerse yourself in it, right?
Yeah.
How important is it for people, if you know, to immerse themselves? And then, let me ask you this, what are the mistakes, you know, salespeople make, or even just like people make? Because like everyone, if you say to someone, do you want to make money?
Yeah.
Everyone says, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to sell stuff? No way. I don't like selling.
Yeah.
So, like, talk to me about that.
It's the way selling is perceived in society, right? So, as society in large, how are salespeople typically perceived? At a much lower status. Even if you're a wealthy salesperson, the average anybody in America or Europe or anywhere still view you as a much lower status. Now, why is that? Why does society view salespeople at a lower status? Well, I can tell you why. It's because of the way you've been forced to sell to them, like the skills you've learned, because most salespeople have been taught that selling is adversarial. You against the prospect, trying to win them over, trying to manipulate them so you can make money. Now, of course, if society views salespeople that that's how you are to them, of course they're going to view you as like, stay away from me, low status, I need to protect myself. But if you started viewing selling as more collaborating with the prospect, helping them find and solve problems that maybe they didn't understand they have, and then helping them get where they really want to be, selling becomes really easy. And most people will actually thank you at the end of the day, right? Like, you know, it's like you're getting them to thank you for you allowing them to give you money to solve their problems and get them to the results they want. And that's really how selling really is if you're really good at it, right? And so that's what we train salespeople is we teach you how to get your prospects to do all the work, whereas traditional selling would probably teach you how to do all the work. On the flip side, we teach you how to get your prospects to sell themselves. Traditional selling would teach you that you got to sell them. We teach you how to get them to overcome their own objections, whereas in traditional selling, you're throwing out rebuttals, more resistance, more objections, and then we're teaching you how to get the prospects to pull you in, work with human behavior, rather than push and pressure. And so when you learn those things, selling becomes pretty easy and pretty fun, where you actually really like to be in sales.
I love it, dude. And for people watching this, right?
Yeah.
When you are doing sales trainings and someone wants to get into sales and someone wants the easy script, right?
Yeah.
Like in marketing, they just want a funnel, or they think like, if I get a funnel, I'm one funnel away, I'm just going to reach. But the truth is, you have to understand copywriting, sales, traffic generation. You have to understand how to create ads that effectively communicate.
Yeah.
What do you think is the missing link for salespeople that they don't get it?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that salespeople don't learn, because, you know, a lot of times, you know, salespeople or companies come to us like, hey, can you just write us a script? I'm like, I can, but how would you know how to use this script? Well, what do you mean? I just asked the questions. Okay, but what if the prospect asks or says something and takes you off script? What are you going to do then? Or it's not necessarily the question, but it's how you're asking the question. Because if you sound scripted, if you're like asking the questions, but you sound scripted with your tone, your prospects, you're going to notice you're going to ask good questions, but they're going to give you vague, generalized, surface level answers. They don't emotionally open up and go below the surface. And then at the end, what objection are you going to get? I want to think it over. I want to talk to my spouse. I need to keep looking around. I'm not sure it's the right time. I need to do more research, even though they have problems that your solution solves. So the missing link is how you're asking the question. So in our sales training, besides showing them how to ask the right questions for their industry at the right time, most importantly, we teach how to use your tone to get the prospect to let their guard down and open up emotionally and trust you, because there are certain questions that require more of a curious tone. Let's say if I sold like for a marketing agency, for example, like maybe, walk me through, what are you guys doing now to generate new leads and clients? That's a curious tone. My curious tone communicates to the prospect that I'm genuinely curious about what I'm asking. I'm not saying, walk me through, what do you guys do now to generate new leads and clients? Sounds more scripted. There's other questions that are going to require more of a confused tone. Let's say if I want them to open up emotionally and they say, this XYZ, let's say if I'm selling funnels, I'm having a lot of issues with our funnels lately. But hold on, how do you mean by issues? See, that's a confused tone, okay? I'm probing. Oh, hold on, how do you mean by issues? That's an emotional word, issues, right? I want to probe about that, but my tone is a confused tone, which causes the prospect to clarify what he meant by issues and to go below the surface. Now, if I don't use a confused tone there, he's not going to necessarily open up. He's going to stay surface level, okay? There's other questions that are going to require more of a challenging or skeptical tone. Let's say if they're like, they want to do funnels. For example, let's just stay on the funnels. And let's say, give me a problem that maybe one of your clients would have, like a massive problem, and the consequence.
They don't know which funnel. They basically think that if they just copy someone else's funnel, hey, I want to be a sales trainer, I'm just going to copy Jeremy's funnel. But I copied Jeremy's funnel, but they're not making any money. It's like,
so what happens if you don't do anything about this and you keep getting these lower quality leads? How would you be able to scale to $5 million a month? See, that's a challenging tone. I'm pushing them back. This is 3/4 of the way in the conversation. I'm almost pushing them away where they pull me back in, where they defend themselves on why they need to change, right? See, I'm getting them to defend themselves on why they have to change now. Builds urgency. There's other questions that are going to require more of a concern tone. So I might lean in. I'm going to put my hand on my chest, because this, if they can see you, signifies that you're concerned, and it actually affects how your tone comes across. And I might lean in and say, John, what's really holding you back from moving forward? What's really holding you back from moving forward so you can get a higher quality lead to build the business? See, I'm concerned for them. So my prospect feels I'm concerned for them, so they are more than likely to emotionally open up, and it builds trust. Trust is king in sales. Like, there's this old myth, and it comes from a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, where he talks about you got to get, people buy from people they like. The problem is that book was written in 1936. We're in 2023. People buy from people who they trust can get them the best result. If they like you, that's just a bonus. You love grandma, but you're not necessarily buying from grandma if she builds funnels compared to Shaq building funnels, because you don't know Shaq that much, but you trust Shaq can get you a much bigger result than grandma, even though you love grandma. See, people don't buy from people they like, they buy from people who they trust can get them the best result. And if they like you, it's just a bonus, but that's not why they buy. Now, in 1936, you bought from your neighbor who owned the butcher store, right? Because that's how you bought, like that's how it's communicated. But there's so many options, so many marketing messages, so many sales messages out there. You love your best friend Bob who owns a hardware store, but you're buying your screwdrivers from Amazon because Amazon gets you a better result. You might not love Jeffrey Bezos, but you're still buying from Amazon because they get you a better result.
Don't you just love listening to Jeremy? The tone, the inflection points, everything. I guess it took you 23 years to learn this, right?
Yeah.
And you've
still learning.
Still learning, you're always a student. You've created the methodology of NEPQ, right? For people watching this, like, what the heck is NEPQ?
Yeah, so my background in college is behavioral science, human psychology, and social dynamics. Social dynamics is really the study of how society makes decisions. Behavioral science, I'm not going to give you the scientific term, but what I really studied is how does the brain make decisions? Why does the brain say no compared to say yes? Why does it go left instead of going right by just seeing a sign that says go left? Like, what triggers in the brain to do that? What triggers in the brain to put their guard up? So as a salesperson, I'm learning all this while I'm in college, right? I'm taking, I took courses from like Robert Cialdini when I was in college.
Right, Cialdini.
That was online when online universities started coming out. So I was going to school, plus taking all these online courses on psychology and different things, and I was understanding how the brain works. And so that's when I started learning how to use my tone to cause the prospect to let their guard down instead of going into fight or flight mode. So I'll give you an example. So you ever get a call from like a telemarketer, and in the first 10 seconds you're like, not interested?
Yeah.
And you ever hang up the phone and you don't even really know what they said?
Yeah.
You know why?
Why?
Because your brain hears their tone first before you hear their words. Does that make
Tone
sense?
first.
See, here's your tone. So there's 3 parts of your brain.
Okay.
There's a lot of people call it like the survival brain or your reptilian brain, okay? The second part of your brain, a lot of people call that the midbrain. There's other names, but just say the midbrain. And then the third part is your neocortex, problem solving, okay? So let's say if I'm at a grocery store, I'm walking in the grocery store and I hear somebody scream, like a lady just yell, okay? First of all, that's going into your survival part of your brain, so you react. Am I okay? Like if somebody's shooting, is something happening? You react. You haven't heard the words yet. So instantly you react, and then within like a split second, that goes into your midbrain where you start to interpret the words you just said. And then in a split second, it goes into your neocortex, and you're like, oh, it's just a lady yelling at her son not to cross the street. I'm okay. That's the process, but you react first from the tone. That sets it apart. So if your tone comes across salesy on a call or even Zoom or in person, if it comes across salesy, if it comes across too excited, like salespeople do, if it comes across, let's say, attached, if it comes across scripted, what that does is it triggers the prospect very quickly to react, right? To react and like, oh, I'm not interested. Or like if you get on a Zoom, like, hey, how are you doing today? How's it going? It's cheesy questions like that. You're going to notice people are like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good, because they're used to every salesperson saying the same thing, right? And
What's a good opener?
Well, like on the phone or on Zoom?
On Zoom. On Zoom, they can see.
Yeah. So on Zoom, I would.
What's your best opener?
You never want to go into, and I'll show you what not to do, then I'm going to show you what to do. You never want to go into like a Zoom call, phone call, in person, like, hey, how you doing today? How's your day going? How's the weather over there in Dallas? Oh yeah, I love Dallas. I went there 10 years. Because your prospect does not genuinely believe that you really give a damn about how their day's going. And why do they not believe that? Because they're used to every salesperson that's ever tried to sell them anything asking them that type of question over. So they associate you with everybody else that's ever said that, which they don't like salespeople in general. So now you put yourself in that camp. Now, I'm not talking about the laydowns, but most of the people you're talking to, that's going to how they're interpret it. Basically what they're interpreting when you say that is, I'm just trying to get you to like me so I can sell you my product or service, when you ask those type of questions. So if I'm getting on Zoom, I might look down at, like, let's say a document or whatever. It depends on what you sell. Let's say I'm selling your stuff, like funnels. Okay, so let's say I have an application form that here's their business. Okay, so can you hear me? Okay, can you see me? Okay, good. Now, hey, it looks like you booked on the calendar about maybe getting outside help with like building funnels so you could really grow the business, right? See, I'm getting them, I'm just making that up. I'm getting them to results-based thinking. So it looks like you had booked on the calendar to, maybe get outside help in like scaling your ads and like your funnel so you can really grow the business, right? Right, they're gonna be right. See, I'm getting automatically into results-based thinking rather than price or cost-based thinking. So I'm telling them, looks like you're doing this so that you can, and I repeat back the end result. So right off the bat, I'm getting them into results.
Because I make that first mistake. Hey, how you doing? How's the weather?
Yeah. You can't do that anymore, Shaq.
Okay, no more.
Yeah, no more.
Right, but anyone books a sales call with me, that's exactly what I'm gonna say. Let's go straight to the result. That was so elegantly said.
Yeah.
This also the stuff that you teach in your sales training.
Yeah.
I haven't been through sales training in a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe I should pick up some courses.
Well, there you go. Maybe you should pick up some courses. There you go. We got 36 now or something.
Okay. And what's your best-selling course right now?
The average course that like an individual salesperson would buy is called NEPQ 3.0 Pro, and that's our 45-hour virtual training platform. 45 hours of training content, from everything from connection questions to get them to let their guard down, situation questions, problem awareness, solution awareness, consequence, how to present, how to close or commit them to take the next step. And then they have, wait for it, 57 training calls a week. Now,
What?
we don't expect
Yeah.
them to be on 57 training calls, but we have clients in all time zones all over the world. So we have sales trainers in all time zones over the world that do different training for those time zones.
Wow.
So if you're in Hong Kong, you're not like having to wake up at 2 a.m. to watch Jeremy on a training call. We've got sales trainers in Asia that are actually doing NEPQ there, right?
Yeah.
And so you're on their training calls, and you still have the archive versions of me. We have training calls for Europeans, right? All that stuff, advanced tonality, advanced objection prevention, advanced objection handling. I even do one of those training calls per week where I teach them how to make NEPQ specific to their industry. That's like an hour and a half group training call that sometimes has thousands of people on there. So that's probably the one that most people buy if they're an individual salesperson selling anything. And then we of course have like company training for companies that have anywhere from 5 sales reps to our biggest client has almost 30,000 sales reps.
Wow.
And they go through the virtual training platform and they have different training calls for their groups as well by me and our account managers.
Jeremy, I've known you for obviously a very long time.
Yeah.
Back then you were making 100 grand a month. Now you're making about 100 grand a day.
I think we make a lot more than that, but that's good. But it's
That's-
not all profit.
yeah,
Let's
so-
say we have $300,000 in sales a day. I mean, you're not profiting all that.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah.
But no, we have to have fulfillment costs and we have
Yeah.
marketing costs.
So like, you went from say $1 million a year to, what, 50 million?
My best year in sales, I made 2.9 million in income, like commissions. Yeah, but
So-
I think when you first met me, I was making like maybe 1.5 million in commissions, but then it got more after that. I got
Yeah.
better.
And so now let's just say you're doing say 35 to 50 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay. How has that personally changed your life?
I don't. It really hasn't.
You're
I'm
not
really
wearing
weird.
Louis Vuitton shoes
No,
and
I don't wear. Yeah.
bowling, and your CEO, by the way, he's
Yeah.
not like that as well. And he said to me yesterday, he goes, I could also afford a $150,000 watch, but,
Yeah.
and he's saying basically, I see people like chains and everyone's, listen, I'm not
Yeah.
judging, but Jeremy is a friend of mine, so I want to always get into the brains of my
Yeah.
friends. So it's like, is it just like a maturity thing or?
I mean, to me, like we could pay ourselves a lot more than what we do, but like we're more focused on like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 25 years down the road. Like we want 7 Level to be here long after we're gone as an organization, as the largest sales training organization on the planet. We got a lot of work to do. We have to humble ourselves sometimes and realize we don't know everything, that we need to bring in maybe some different people in different areas to help us get to that point. So we'd rather keep more of the money in the company to bring in better people and like more skilled people in certain areas, even positions we don't even have yet, that will be needed as we scale to really get us to eventually where we want to be. So, I mean, I don't like buy stuff at Walmart, which no offense to Walmart, but sometimes the clothes break down fast. So, I might have a $200 pair of jeans on. I like 7 Mankind's, my favorite. This is a Theory shirt, so it's probably $80,
Yeah.
And these boots are maybe $200.
Yeah.
And that's about it, man. Now my underwear, those are $1,000. No, I'm just joking. Just regular underwear. But no, I never really. My
Are
thing
you going to
with-
get in the merch game?
I don't know. The thing with the designer shoes,
Yeah.
I love the way they look, but they're so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of Gucci shoes like a year ago, and I put them on and wore them for a couple of days, and like, man, these are uncomfortable. I never wore them again. So I usually to work I wear like what are they called? Cole Haans.
Yeah.
Like they kind of look a little bit dressy, but they have like the Nike soles. They're like $150.
Yeah.
But they go good with like I wear like maybe some Armani. They're not slacks, but they're kind of the mid between slacks and jeans. They're like $250.
Okay.
That's about my limit.
Yeah.
I'm not buying pants for $1,000. I don't care enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good. And then obviously, because when you make lots of money, you also, different opportunities come along. Some of them, they might not serve you. Like I remember when we were younger, when I was younger, you was also younger, we go in, hey, do you want to invest in oil? You want to invest in gas?
Yeah.
You want to invest in this gold mine? And I'm like, okay, sign me up.
50 grand here, 20 grand here, 100 grand
But for
here.
me, it was like 200 grand there, 600 grand there. And I mean,
How much of that did you lose?
I lost over 7 figures, like over probably 1.5 million.
I probably lost 90% of that money. There was like a 7-year stretch where all these, when you make a lot of money, everybody, the sharks come
Yeah.
out. They're like, oh, if we put in this oil well in
Yeah.
South Korea, There's gold
Just-
mine in a
yeah.
year, you're going to be a trillionaire. Oh, really? Here's $100 grand. 6 months later, company dissolves.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I've
Definitely
gone
learned my
through
lesson
that.
from this.
How do you, because you know, your stuff is so good, people watching this, they go through your stuff, they start making money.
Yeah.
Right? What advice do you have for people to hold on to that money and to invest wisely? Just from, this is not financial
Yeah.
advice. This
Yeah.
is just conversations between friends.
What's really helped me, like, I invest with a company called Ameriprise.
Okay.
So I have like a really good financial advisor there that diversifies it all over. I don't get crazy returns, but I get consistent returns. Like I'm not, like there's some, some crypto, right? Which you love crypto, which is good. Sometimes it's like way up or way down. I love that type of investment, but you don't want to invest everything you have into that. Like if you're looking at that, maybe invest 5% of your portfolio, maybe 10% at the most. But if you're putting half of your portfolio to some crypto that, 20% chance it's going to blow up, that's what I would have done 15 years ago, but I would never do that now. I'm more interested in the 6% return a year, or the 12% return a year, but it's compounding interest and real estate. A really good investment portfolio. So about half of my investments are in real estate. The other half are like the stock market, like diversifying that out. And maybe I'll take 2 to 5% and put it in more riskier stuff now. And I think if you do that at a young age, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to build up financial freedom with far less risk than if you're just throwing everything into one bank.
I've learned to focus on single, instead of having one big win, having small wins, and just build on the small wins.
Yeah.
I forget what his term, Professor Scott Galloway, he talks about this. It's like, focus on single home runs, single runs or
Singles.
Focus.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like whatever
like
that.
baseball.
Okay, baseball.
Just a
See, there you go.
single.
I had no idea it was baseball. Okay,
Yeah.
all I heard is he said like focus on the singles versus one home run. Okay,
Because you're going to strike out at it.
yeah. So that's where it comes from, baseball, and that has helped me a lot, especially in the last 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't have to go crazy.
Yeah.
But I do want to go crazy on my business because I can control the effort,
You have far more control than like, what is it, Dogecoin?
Dogecoin and
Dogecoin,
Shiba Inu.
Yeah, and those might be great investments, and hopefully it works out, but it's just a lot more risk. You don't really have much control there.
Yeah. This is a question that's, I kind of know the answer maybe somewhat.
Okay.
But the last sales trainer. There has been sales trainers that you and I have learned from. They've been so great. Say the Brian Tracy's, Zig Ziglar's. Why is it that you have such more of a, like right now, you're basically the hottest sales trainer around?
I have no idea.
People
tell me that, I'm
basically
like,
you're
okay.
one, there's another dude around, but basically more people, you impact a lot more people. So you're doing a very good job. I'm very proud of you. I'm very happy for you.
We try our best.
Genuinely,
Yeah.
as a friend, as a brother. Why do you think others that have got 50 years of sales experience, how comes they haven't made that impact? And what I'm trying to ask is, why has your message hit? Everyone's selling sales training, right?
Yeah,
There's so many sales trainers out there. Why did your message hit?
I think I spoke to what salespeople always knew, but they weren't being trained. They weren't being taught. I think deep down, as a human being, you want to have connection. You don't want to get rejected all the time. You don't want to have tons of objections. Most people can't go through that day in and day out and not burn out. So I really feel that our message around, old model of selling, new model of selling, how to work with human behavior rather than work against it, has really generated a little bit of buzz. And I think a lot of people get results even from our free stuff. So that really spreads around. Last year when we were here, I bet you I talked to at least 300-400 people that were following us, and we had some clients here. But this year, it's like we probably have 300 or 400 clients that I've talked to that are just clients, not alone just followers. So I think a lot of times people follow and they start getting results and they start telling everybody else, and then it just kind of spreads. Yeah. I always, it's that one saying, and I don't know if Steve Martin, the actor, invented that. I always see it on the internet. I don't know if he said it or somebody else, or if it's just a meme. But in my mind, even as a kid, I felt like I always had to prove myself in sports because I wasn't the most athletic on the team. I was athletic, wasn't the most talented, but I just learned, I outlearned everybody else and I outworked everybody else to obtain really good, for my body type, really success in sports, in baseball and football. And so I took that into sales training, and from a very early age, I'm like, I'm just gonna outlearn everybody. I always knew, like, if I could learn these skills, that I'm more dedicated and committed than 99.9% of other salespeople out there I was competing with, that I would simply outlearn them. And so I think it's resonated with a marketplace that, because what we train is far different than what anybody else is really training. Now I have a few friends that are really good sales trainers, by the way, and we collaborate, really good, amazing sales trainers. But for the most part, most people are still doing rehashed material that was taught in the 1940s, 1960s, 1980s, like boiler room style, or repackaged as consultative selling, which sounds pretty scripted. And we kind of came in with probably a much newer angle. So it's worked out good.
He has. All right, I think I have a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Because then I have to podcast and interview your CEO, Matt Ryder. And
you should get Marco in here. He's
Where
a
is
marketing genius.
Okay.
He's probably up in his room.
Because in my mind, I also want to ask you marketing questions.
Everything.
But I'm like trying to say, no, ask the marketing questions to the next guy. Okay.
Yeah, you're asking me marketing questions. Like, I don't know.
Nah.
I don't do any of the marketing.
Now,
Talk to Marco.
This has been incredible. Listen, if you found value from this, you got to share this with your friends and family. I'm going to be watching this. Our last video, I've watched it endless times. I mean, I've taken my content marketing. I've become much, let me tell you this. Yesterday, your CEO in that 90-minute call, he said something. And I said, why did Jeremy's stuff hit?
Yeah.
Right? Because
Sure.
we're in an event, 6,000 people here.
Yeah.
There's probably at least 10%, 600 people wanting to get into sales, right?
Sure, yeah.
But Jeremy has cracked the code, and he's cracked it at a global scale, global level. And I asked him, you know what he said? He said, we make our free stuff so good that even if people don't buy, they still get value.
Yeah. And they tell everybody else.
Yeah. Like yesterday, I watched a reel, I think, right? And I'm like pausing it and writing it down, and I sent that text to a lead, right? I didn't say, hey, I'm following up. I'm like, man, I can't ever do that. That's like...
Yeah. No, it's true. You'll go through some of our comments. It's interesting to me because you'll see like 500 comments of like, man, I didn't think this would work, and I tried it, and I had 3 people respond that have been ghosting me for 4 months, and then some other dude would be like, this would never work. I'd never try this, and I'm like, too bad for him.
Yeah.
He has too much of an ego. He thinks he knows everything about selling and communication, and that's why he's stuck at the income he's at. So I feel bad for some of those people, actually.
Well, on that note, Jeremy, I do want to say, I appreciate you very much, brother.
Thanks, dude.
As a friend.
You're my bro.
Mentor.
When I come over to the UK, which I keep telling you I am, it seems like we have all these keynotes all over America and other countries, but no keynotes in the UK yet. Like,
okay, if you want to hire him,
London, what's going on?
If you want to hire him, he's exactly 39,000. What was it?
And some change. It depends on where it's at, though.
All right,
it's probably a little bit more.
Okay,
our speaking fees they will raise because we have more and more people that want us to speak. We're having to turn down most of them because it's just like it's not part of our business model.
Yeah.
Like even paying $39,000, it's like me speaking on stage in an hour and a half is a week's of preparation. It's not like I just show up and blabber there. Like I come to like train people how to sell more. So it's like the plane trip there. Got to speak the next day, the plane trip back. There's 3 days and probably 3 or 4 days to prep the keynote. So it's a week of my time. So even for 40 grand, that's not really much. We just do it for the reels.
And by the way,
we do it for reals.
This is not just him saying that. He actually gets paid this by some of the biggest companies. So $40,000 for a 90 minutes keynote, and you got to still cover the flights and stuff. But even that, I mean,
we just do it for the reels basically, because that's.
So you take that and then...
We repurpose it for reels.
Yeah, so then you must follow him on his YouTube channel and on his TikTok. And I'll link all the socials.
Have them follow me on Instagram. That's Instagram and Facebook where we're really big.
Instagram.
We just brought in an internal like content creation team for our YouTube, so that's starting to scale now. We've never really done anything on YouTube, but you'll start seeing that blow up pretty soon.
Yeah, how many people do you have on your YouTube team?
We only have 6. On the YouTube team, we have 3 people now that just focus on YouTube. We just brought them in a month ago, and we've already grown our subscribers by about 18,000 in a month.
And what about Instagram?
Instagram, we have 2 people on that, and we went from 0 followers 20 months ago to, I just checked it this morning, 554,000 followers.
550,000 followers.
In 20 months, I never had an IG account before that.
Yeah.
Never was on IG.
Wow. And are you getting that organically or are you doing paid as well?
Most of that's organically. There is some paid.
Okay.
Yeah, we could have a lot more, but the problem is like in the DMs, you can't send enough messages to make it worth it to get more paid traffic. Because if you're just paying traffic to look good, it doesn't make any sense. So we have a certain sweet spot where we have a certain amount of leads that come in every week that our DM team can handle, because if you have more people in there, you just get shut out at the DM, so it doesn't make any sense. Like if we wanted to pay more, we'd probably be over a million subscribers pretty easily, but we would just be losing money, and Matt's, as a CEO, he doesn't like losing money.
Yeah, no, I love it. Dude, I can talk to you for ages. We're gonna go and we're gonna go hang out. So, if you enjoyed this, comment below, let us know what your biggest takeaway is, and we'll see you next year. Same time next year.
We'll see you next year, brother.
All right, bro,
Thanks everybody for watching.
Welcome to the stage with 2 Garmin Club Next Awards.